If you read 30 minutes every single day consistently, you live 2 years longer because your brain stays active.
There's this famous saying called there's no furniture like books.
I have a brain freeze. The fifth game of the World Championship match in 2008.
It's usually a bug that bites you pretty early and bites you hard. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, regardless of wherever you're in the world. It's really a privilege to welcome you today to the Tech Mahindra Fable Mind Master Book Club, discussing our shared love of learning, our love of strategy, and obviously our shared love for chess. We are today going to be launching, like I mentioned, the Mind Master Book Club on Fable. It's a wonderful app. In case you haven't already downloaded it, please do so immediately. We'll be sharing some more details of Fable and the book club during the discussions. But today, I'm really privileged to be joined by two absolute legends. Let me start with Padmasree Warrior. She is the founder and CEO of Fable, a groundbreaking social platform for reading and for book clubs. Padma has been like a complete force of nature for the tech services, for the tech business, sorry. She previously served as the EVP and CTO at Motorola, then as the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer at Cisco, and then finally as the CEO of Neo before starting up Fable. She's been on multiple global boards, including Microsoft, and currently serves on the boards of Spotify and the Mahindra Group. Welcome, Padma, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Great to see you.
And it's obviously an honor to introduce Viswanathan Anand, five-time world chess champion and author of the book we'll be talking about later today, Mind Master, Winning Lessons from a Champion's Life. Known fondly as Vishy, he became India's first Grandmaster in 1988 and was awarded the Khel Ratna. He's been a dominant force in chess, for the longest time in India, globally, as a player, as a mentor, and really as everything chess. Welcome, Vishy.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, Padma. It's great to see you both. And I haven't seen you, Padma, since I saw you in the Bay Area a couple of years back. So nice to reconnect. Mohit, of course, I've seen more recently, and we're doing the Global Chess League together. So
Thanks, Anand. So let me just get started, right? Because we're obviously here to talk about our passion for reading and our passion for books, where it started, what kind of books you like reading, how you like reading, what formats, and maybe a couple of interesting books you've read recently. So I guess like all of us, right? Like all of us, reading I feel is something that I've known very few people who actually pick up reading late in life. It's usually a bug that bites you pretty early and bites you hard. For me, it was my mother, and she was and is really passionate about books, and so I found myself reading a lot of her books when she was doing a PhD in English literature, and then over time, really, got bitten by the bug. I end up, trying to read every time I have, maybe a half an hour. I read quite widely, but I've got some favorite genres, right? For me, even though I travel so much, travel books have really been a passion of mine. Jan Morris, for instance, is one of my favorite authors, and more recently, I read this wonderful book on Sri Lanka. Read a wonderful book called The High Caucasus, about the history of everything between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, a very troubled region, obviously, and very much in the news with everything going on in that part of the world. Love reading books on history. I usually don't read books, only physical books. I was big into Kindle a while ago, but there's this famous saying called "There's no furniture like books," right? And I love having these giant bookshelves in my house stacked up with books, and sometimes I'll just stand in front of the books, and you'll see a list of everything you've read over the past couple of years, and brings back sort of the physicality of a book, brings back very fond memories. So that's a little bit about my reading habits. I would love to hear from you first, Padma, and then Anand, about what you do books and what you like reading, and maybe something recently that has caught your attention?
Thank you, Mohit, for sharing that. I think for me, obviously, books have been with me my whole life. I grew up in India, in a small town in southern India, and when I was growing up, books were literally the only entertainment we had. Back then, there was no television, and movies were expensive to go to. So very frequently, when I was a kid, I used to go to these secondhand book stalls at the end of the street where my home was and borrow books. I don't know if these still exist in India or not, but it was sort of like my mom used to always tell me, like, you can't spend so much money buying books. So I used to like go to this secondhand bookstall. You could borrow a book, read, and return it, and then take the next one. So it sort of like was a thing I did every day almost, and I would read past my bedtime with a flashlight, and I would read like I was a voracious reader. I think in a way it sparked so much of my imagination. I used to imagine all the places that I wasn't traveling to. I think I'm fascinated by all the travel books you're reading. I would love to read. In some ways, I think my motivation to come to the United States started with books I read that were set in the US. And I was like, oh, this country looks fascinating. I want to go there. I read a lot of fiction. I'm maybe the opposite extreme of you. I read 95% of what I read is fiction. Majority are science fiction, fantasy fiction, but I also love like books about characters and how they evolve. Of late, I've been reading a lot of Japanese fiction translated into English. I just read this book, which is, I think, I highly recommend to everyone. It's a very short book, quick book. It's called Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's a series of like stories. And the whole premise of the book is if you could go back into the past and meet someone and spend little time with them without changing anything that happened in the past, where would you go? What would you do? And the only amount of the restriction is you only get the time before the coffee gets cold. So you only get a short period of time. So it's really fascinating because these stories allow you to explore yourself as a person. What do you love? What do you miss from the past? And for me, it was sort of like it made me think about I would go back to tell my mom how much I loved her. Sometimes in our life, we take people so much for granted. We take love for granted. And occasionally, books remind us not to do that. And so, yeah, they've had a profound impact on me. I just read Vishy's book. I'm by no means a chess player. I feel like I'm an imposter here. Although I'm not like a great chess player, I still learned a lot about. I think that's the thing with books. You learn about other people's experiences, they inspire you to think differently.
Wonderful to hear that, Padma. And if you're ever in London, I'm happy to tell you that London is still a city where second-hand bookstores are reasonably common. So you can get a paperback for £1 and a hardcover for £2. So yeah, it is something remarkable being able to find the whole world within a book. And I fully agree with you. I always felt that if you can read something, you can learn something, right? I mean,
Yes,
there is really no
absolutely.
barrier to all the knowledge in the world. Padma spoke about your book, and obviously we will talk about your book and the fascinating lessons it has, for strategy, for business, for how we should live our lives. But the world knows you, as a chess grandmaster, right? What do we not know about Viswanathan Anand, the bibliophile, the book lover?
So I think very similar to both of you, I've been reading books since my childhood. Um, I got my first chess book, which was a very big deal in those days because there was this one bookstore which happened to have this one book about chess. It was very, very important book about chess, kind of sort of a bestseller. It was a book on chess openings. My sister found it and she brought it home. And very similar again, me, my elder brother, and elder sister, we used to go to a lending library called Ishwari Lending Library. In those days, I liked reading about science and things like that. Mainly, I think I got it from encyclopedias. Uh, Again, very hard to explain how indispensable an encyclopedia once was. Nowadays, you have alternate ways of looking up things, but those days, you wanted to know something about a subject. That was your And I had this one encyclopedia which tried to cover everything, a bit of history, bit of Roman history, bit of Greek history and all that, but also lots of Indian history. But at the same time, they had geography sections, they had science. I mean, real broad-based book. I remember there was a book floating around the house, Cosmos by Carl Sagan, except no one really seemed to know how it got there. But anyway, that was a fantastic book, and for me, my introduction to astronomy. And me and my cousins, we used to get together once in a while, and we'd take this book, a couple of encyclopedias, and just discuss possibilities there. I remember at one point we were fascinated by the idea of settling in other planets, and which we got from some book, and we'd all sit and discuss which was the easiest planet to settle in, things like that. Um, and there was another thing for long train journeys to go to chess tournaments and so on. I mean, something which might take a day. I remember once buying a book on, Germany in the 1930s by William Shirer. I read that book. It's heavy reading, but at least for the entire train journey, I didn't notice the passage of time. Uh, so there's all that. And over the years, I added some fiction, lots of books on maths and science, just whimsy. I would say by now it's almost whimsical. I'll suddenly read about a good book and think, okay, now I want it. I'm interested in that subject. Let's do that. So I have books on math, on science, authors like Bill Bryson and Simon Singh. I recently started reading Why We Die by Venki Ramakrishnan. Uh, History is still there, some Dalrymple, some amount of our mythological fiction. So I use that word because they're not only taking a mythology, they're reimagining it. People like Amish Tripathi. So as you can see, it's all over the place, but I mainly use it to lose myself once in a while. And just two final books. I was at a chess tournament in Munich when one of the participants said, "I have a good book for you," and he gave me his book. He said it's a fantastic read called The Red Dragon. To me, it sounded like some book about China, so I took it. But of course, it's the precursor to Silence of the Lambs. And by the time I went to sleep that night, I was totally terrified. So there's that possibility as well.
The other thing that struck me when Vishy was talking, one is he named quite a few, of the authors who I absolutely adore, like Bill Bryson, and I remember that even that William Shirer's book "Rise and Fall of the Third Reich" is a complete doorstopper, but was a huge favorite of mine growing up.
Yeah.
Padma, I think as you've been such a successful corporate executive, such a successful board leader, but as you started building out something new, right? Building out something on that connects with your passion for books. Did you find anything that was that sparked that passion for entrepreneurship? That you read something that made you feel that this is the time and this is the platform that is needed?
Thank you for that question. It's a very thoughtful question. But I think I've had a long career in the tech industry, been very fortunate to do many, many things, worked for very large companies, have very big jobs. I think about 6 years ago now, I started to really think about how do we apply technology more for human wellness. I came across a lot of data and papers that were talking about how mental wellness is on the decline globally. It's now people call it the next big global crisis, right? So not illness, but wellness. So, and that fascinated me. And I was looking for, is there a simple tool that will help people manage and take care of our mental wellness? And, when I did that research, reading and stories surfaced to the top. There's now a lot of neuroscientists who've done research and published papers on how if you read 30 minutes every single day consistently, all other things being equal, you live 2 years longer because your brain stays active and stays agile. So yeah, I think both of you will, I think benefit from that. That sort of sparked my idea for Fable. I wanted to build something that is fun, that is easy, that encourages people to not just read more. It's not like actually the quantity, but the consistency. It's just like physical workout, right? It's not like running. It's not enough if you just run a marathon once a year, but it's more like if you can exercise 15, 20 minutes every single day, that's more beneficial for our health. Similarly, reading consistently every day for anything from 10 to 30 minutes exercises our brain and like unplugs it from whatever's causing that stress. That made me like sort of like jump into this space and think about how would I build a company around that. Today we have a great product. We have users from all over the world, and we encourage you through features like streaks, marking when you read. All these things allow people to read consistently, to read great books with other people, where we are sharing those learnings. I think the entrepreneurial journey is sort of like for me late in my career, as you would say. Most people like start their companies early and then end up in big companies later in life. I did the reverse. And sometimes people ask me, why did you do that? Like, it's so hard to build a company. Why would you do that? You're crazy. I just write like it is important sometimes in life to work on something that matters and leave a legacy that helps others. Like as the quote, I'm sure I'm messing it up, but it's sort of like purpose is not what you do, but purpose is allowing others to do things because of what you do. And so I think that's sort of like the my mantra when I started Fable.
That's incredible. I think, for something that is so enjoyable and it gives you 2 years of life expectancy, it's almost like, I almost feel like we should all be evangelists for it, right? To think that, humanity only discovered writing 5,000 years ago, and the profound impact it has on reshaping our brains, on like almost physically restructuring our brains, is the connection with physical health. It's just remarkable how evolution has shaped us in a way to benefit from reading in such a profound fashion.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And then, Bishi, in your book, Mind Master, obviously, I think most people don't really appreciate how demanding and how sort of physically demanding the act of playing chess or playing in a tournament is, right? And you spoken in your book, for instance, about the fact that you almost need a distraction, and and gave a couple of great examples. I think one of them was about Kasparov going to play cards, during a tournament, because that was a great distraction. Is it the same with books as well? How much of reading is sort of sharpening your craft, and how much of it is sort of getting away from your craft?
I think my philosophy in books is it's about getting away. Um, in fact, the very reason I enjoy all these subjects, reading them through books, is because I don't have to write exams on them anymore. I remember reading A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking because it was lying in a friend's house, and I asked him if I could borrow it. He said, sure. I was staying with him for a couple of days, and I ran through the book. Uh, I mean, to this day, I know that 10 to the power of minus 43 seconds is the Planck length. Because, it's the first time I couldn't imagine such a unit of time. And, for me, it's just escape. Of course, when I read something that fascinates me, I like to look up more facts and so on. Um, but I think the benefit to my work or profession or craft will come indirectly. Of course, there are chess books that I read for exactly that purpose. Um, but then the attitude to it is very different. And my attitude is, what am I taking? What am I taking away? Did I understand everything? Will I be able to feel my way at the board where it counts? Or have I? I mean, when we read something, we may not get every detail, but in a chess book, I have to get every detail uh, because at the board, I can't afford to leave too much to improvisation there, and so on. So that's my uh, philosophy with reading books. My guilty pleasure, which you asked, I think there's a certain charm in picking up your old childhood comics and reading them again.
Are you a Tintin man or an Asterix man?
I've
Well,
got
I'm
both.
thinking,
I've got the entire collection of both.
Both, yeah,
Um,
same for me.
but I also have these old Amar Chitra Katha, Chandamavas, and so on. I mean, that was also nice. It's how we learned. Um, but what I've done recently, my wife and me, we buy one travel book from every country we visit. And the more photo heavy, then it's guilt free. I mean, it's guilty pleasure. You just pick up, you look at the photos, but that's nice in a way, the memories and so on. There's not much reading as such, but you're simply enjoying memories of a trip and so on. So,
Yeah. I think what Rishi said really resonates with me. I think it just sort of happens. I think I feel our brain absorbs things and then we sort of like relive these experiences. It calms you down from whatever. I think for me too, it's sort of like when I read a book, it's in a way an escape. But then that escape it's sort of like meditative almost, right? Like for me, it's like reading and painting. I paint, and sort of like when I paint, my brain just like goes into a very different zone. So, I mean, does that help my work? I think it does because in some ways it grounds me, it calms me, and so I actually now read on Fable. When I take a lunch break between meetings, I have 30 minutes. I'm grabbing my lunch instead of doom scrolling, as I call it on other social platforms. I just go to Fable and I read like few pages. And that in itself is like a different break from my day-to-day work. So I totally agree with what Vishy is saying. It's almost like a serendipitous thing. And sometimes you read like for a specific thing, like I want to learn about nutrition. So I would read a book about that, right? But there you have a goal and you have a purpose. So sometimes you read for a purpose, but often you read and you absorb things that will stay with you, which in a way makes you, I think, makes me a better leader and a better business person.
No, absolutely. I think it does round you out. And like I think Vishy mentioned, you never know what context that information or that knowledge could come useful, in business or in life, I think, or in a game. I think that's very relevant. So then from our love for books, maybe talking a little bit about sort of chess and strategy and, how that relates to the world of business. I think, chess has always been seen as the ultimate strategy game. The parallels to business are so strong. Uh, at Tech Mahindra, for instance, our sort of core strategic narrative is around scale at speed. And obviously, at chess, you've got these, the long format, and then you've got rapid chess. Uh, you've spoken in your book, extensively, Vishy, about sort of the connections, the resonance between life and the game of chess, the resonance between business and the game of chess, the importance of having your mental game in order to really win at chess. Can you talk a little bit about the strategic mindset of chess and what it really what we can draw from this game to to our lives and our work?
I think the lessons that chess has taught me um, are just good habits, regular habits applied over long periods. I think Padma mentioned this in the context of reading. Uh, to encash your 2 years extra life. You build good habits. The memories associated with it are stronger, and the recall is better, um, rather than binge working and not. But learning, regular practice, uh, these are very important. There are also certain conventions in chess. Uh, Back in the day, when you played a game, you discuss the game with your opponent, and you have to be honest. You have to share what you actually thought. You can't hold back things because eventually people will figure it out, and they'll reciprocate. So you have to be open about your thoughts. You exchange the information, and that's how we grew as a chess player. Obviously, nowadays you can always prod the computer to give you a suggestion, but back in the day, this was how knowledge was transmitted. Maybe the most relatable insight I got from chess is that your strategy can be as amazing as you want, but if you can't execute it perfectly, it's not worth very much because even if the execution fails at the last hurdle, you've spoiled the entire effort. A lot of chess training is simply hang in there. It's not over till your opponent has resigned and the score sheets are signed. Hang in there. So uh, that's another thing. And maybe one private way of approaching chess is that when I find that, okay, let's say I'm playing with the white pieces and I'm trying to understand some positions. Some positions will come easily, but some I won't make progress no matter what I do. In this case, what I do is, in a sense, I flip the board around. Uh, I will take the black pieces and play the line that was bothering me when I was playing white, give the white pieces to someone else, and basically say, well, let me experience it from a different side. This is like experiencing it from the point of view of the customer or something. You just flip it around and you try to get that feedback. Uh, that's very important because sometimes, no matter what happens, we can't break through a problem. So you have to uh, move around the circle, so to speak, look from all of the perspectives and see if it starts to make sense. At the chessboard, um, the position is very difficult. There's a lot of tension. You're not getting through. You sometimes forget that your opponent is having it just as bad on the other side. Um, and that's something that's useful to keep in mind, that it's not easy for anybody else, and it gives you maybe that little bit of extra motivation to hang on. um, and recently I found that with the speed at which new conclusions come, but also new perspectives, new ways of looking at chess. Even the basic ideas that I used to have in chess, such as put your pieces in the center, the broad based rules that helped you orient yourself in every kind of position, even they can be refined a lot under technological or uh, having multiple games being played. You have to then you have to go back and revisit even the fundamental conclusions you have. So, and unlearning is very hard because by then it's built into your mental habits, your instincts. And so, how do you unlearn it? Then, unlearning is a very unnatural process. You your conscious brain has to tell yourself, wait, this is where I've got to do something different from what I'm used to. And you'll have to do it only in that way. Some of the approaches I have uh, learned in chess, the importance of risk taking and the importance of flexibility. You can't be too attached to any one way of doing things. I hope that came through in the book, but that's what I try to stress always.
I think it's fascinating the parallels you draw to, being an effective person, being an effective manager, and how many of these lessons really apply to chess as well, right? The importance of empathy, the importance of having a plan, but being flexible, the importance of being resilient, the importance of being courageous, the importance of being disciplined, but also innovative, right? I mean, there is so much to learn. But I really loved that piece you had about tactics and strategy. And I was reminded of this quote. I think it's attributed to Churchill, but I don't know if he said it because there are lots of fake quotes attributed to Churchill. It's about regardless of how beautiful the strategy is, you must occasionally look at the results. And I thought that was very apropos to what you were saying in your book. It's fascinating to look at all the resonances between business and chess.
Yeah, I think when I was reading the book, that absolutely came through to me. It's sort of like how much similarity there is, right? In business, you're always trying to anticipate your competitors' moves, where the markets may go, and you're trying to think ahead almost. And when you outline a strategy, I mean, for me, I was chief strategy officer at Cisco, and people always used to ask me, "What does that mean? What is that job?" And I always used to say, people, it's not anything magical. It's just a set of decisions you're trying to make, based on the information you have. Where are the technology trends? Where are the market trends? What does the competitive landscape look like? What are the strengths you have? Where do you have gaps in your portfolio? And you outline a set of decisions. I think to me, that's what strategy is. And then you have to absolutely execute on that and be flexible because sometimes, I always say vision is permanent, but strategy needs to change based on how markets change. The vision you have when you're playing a game or you're leading a company or starting a company is like, this is what I want to be. And you outline a set of strategies, and based on however the other person or the company is making the move, you have to be flexible enough to change your strategy and execute on that. So that really resonated with me as I was reading the book. um, I think the other thing that really resonated with me is the discipline. I think you talked about, the game doesn't define, I'm paraphrasing, but how who you are as a person reflects how you play the game. That's very true in leadership too, right? Like who we are as a person, our experiences reflect who we are as a leader. And then we absorb and adjust that as to get better. There was just so much similarity. As I was reading the book, I was blown away by it. Was almost like I was reading like a business book. So yeah, I think it was a great book. So I could learn a lot. I think as a leader, even to this day.
And I just wanted to echo what you were saying about the lessons that apply to business, or everything, right? From we're seeing it just now in terms of geopolitics and strategy. And I think Vishy spoke about the fact that you have a competitor who does something very new, right? Who does something very new that you don't expect. Do you stick with your original strategy? Do you try and copy what they're doing, or do you try and do something else that you hadn't planned to do earlier in life?
At the board, you have to evaluate the strategy that your opponent is employing, and you have to trust your best judgment. Um, do you think it's working? Do you still believe that your strategy has a chance of success, your original strategy, or do you have to adapt? Um, at the board, you will not be able to copy because essentially your opponent's strategy is a response to yours. So there, the only thing is, are you going to follow your original path, or are you going to blink and move somewhere else? Both decisions, neither is cowardice, or I mean, those are the wrong ways to look at it. Uh, Both are reacting to circumstances, and you continue to trust your judgment. As I mean, that's the consistency you need. However, whenever somebody does something interesting, um, most of my life, my urge has been to copy them. So I'm talking in the next game or in the next tournament. I'll go back home, uh, try to understand what is it they tried, and see if I can include it. Um, a Russian friend once told me, um, "Wish is the always the second or third person to try something new," which is both a compliment on my flexibility or adaptability and a slightly barbed reference to my creativity. They're basically saying he is a great copier, which is fine. For me, the interest in copying someone else is the very fact that they have adopted this strategy from the many they could choose from, tells me there is something hidden there which is worth finding. It's the difference in searching in a haystack when you don't know there's a needle there, or when you're searching in a haystack with some people already searching. Well, then you know there is a needle there. And that's the key thing that I look for. And so it's a bit of, I think my response to it later is, can I copy this? Can I use this myself?
I mean, I think there is no intellectual property protection for chess moves or for business strategy, and so I always tell my teams, right? If you see our competitor doing something which is working, by all means, steal with pride. If they have a way of approaching the market, if there's a certain messaging that's working for them, then by all means, let's see how we can emulate it, because it is not intellectual property, right? It's somebody's found a better way of building a mousetrap, then by all means, let's learn from it.
I mean, that's food for me. That's how you get better at any craft. It's like practicing and learning from others who are better than you. I like people always ask me, "Have you had a mentor? Have you had a coach?" Even in their career, it's sort of like I often say, I don't know if I've had a single mentor or a single coach, But I learned things from others by observing other leaders. What did they do? How did they handle a difficult situation? When I was at Cisco, I would learn a lot from my boss, John Chambers, who would have a great way of talking to customers and understanding what their issues are. I learned so much from observing and adapting that. I think to me, that's the way you learn is observing others. What are they good at? And how do I incorporate that in my toolkit? So I think to me that's very different from like quote unquote copying, right? It's sort of like taking gems. I call it like you collect gems in your life when you meet people and when you see other people excelling at something. It's not like everyone is perfect at something. I'm sure the other chess players are not as good at doing certain things that you've done. And so I think it's sort of like if you had a bag and in your life you're going through, you see a gem, you would be foolish to leave that gem, right? You want to put it in your bag. And so to me, that's how our life experiences work. And I always do that in business. When I see someone talking about a problem certain way or leading a discussion certain way, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. I have to like file that away in my brain. I may use that sometime. So I do something very similar. Yeah. That's how we learn and grow.
Exactly. And I think, it's, we obviously learn from people we work with, but there are so many historical sort of analogies and so many figures in history to learn from. I was thinking of Doris Gunn's Goodwin's book on, on Lincoln, right? The team of rivals, and how much that related to a business context about the ability to get, people who were competing for the same job to work alongside in the same mission. And I feel that there is, 5,000 years of recorded human history to learn from. We are not limited by, by just the here and now. And so, Bishi, moving a little bit now to, to the Global Chess League, right? Because that's another area, Tech Mahindra and you've come together in the world of chess through our GCL sponsorship. Would love to hear from you about your initiative because you've really been the sort of the brainchild and a mentor for us in the Global Chess League. Would love to hear your perspective on building out this community.
Chess has always been an individual sport. Certainly, there are team competitions, but the players are still playing individual games. It's just the sum of individual points. And so uh, what excites me about the Global Chess League is that uh, just like a Fable book club, where you go somewhere and part of the experience is what does everybody else see? What have they noticed that I haven't? What can I share that maybe they haven't spotted? And some things are more enjoyable in a large group. How do you get people to root for a team, associate with the team, and then employ that mechanism to drive audiences? Um, and really focusing on this aspect, the stage, the vibe, everything is really focused on enhancing the fans' experience, um, making it a bit more pulsating, exciting. Uh, the game's more unpredictable. I think the league is doing very well, and hopefully in the third edition we will go much further.
From your lips to God's ears. And Padma, I think, I was thinking about sort of the parallels between Fable and the Global Chess League, right? And three things struck me. One is we are looking at something which has historically been seen as a very individual person, right? Whether it's reading or it's chess, and trying to give it almost sort of like a team flavor to it. And the second piece is, building out a community, right? And, you've tackled both these issues in Fable. What are some of the learnings you've had in building out a community and getting people to share their passion for a particular book or for reading more broadly, with other bibliophiles?
Yeah, I think I totally resonate with what Vishy was saying, right? For the longest time, reading was considered as a solo activity. In fact, if you were a reader, you were called a bookworm, like you took a book and sat in a corner and read by yourself. And it's sort of like, but the thing that is interesting is when you read a great book, you want to tell others about it. I think we all do this. When we read a great book, I immediately like go with that, buy that book and give it to all my friends. I bug my husband to read it. I tell my son like how great that book was, and I can't stop talking about it. So it's sort of like there is a social aspect to what how that happens, and there is a community aspect, right? When you also, like I'm saying, when you read a three of us may read the same book, but we have very different interpretations and takeaways from it. And I think the power, what you try to do at Fable is how do we share that learning as we are, reading together. The way we built the product, it doesn't force you to like be in the same chapter all at the same time, like a physical book club would. The constraint with a physical book club is people feel a lot of pressure because I have a family, I have children, I have a busy job, I'm not able to read as quickly as Mohit is. What we do on Fable is allow you to read at your own pace, and you can come post comments based on the chapter you're at without spoiling. And so, like chapter one, I may be on chapter one, Mohit may be on chapter 10. But I can go post comments on chapter one, and he can go post comments on chapter 10. So I think this notion of sharing and learning together is what really is very powerful. And that's something we learned about communities and how they come together on Fable.
No, it's wonderful, and I think this is the perfect occasion to talk about how we're going to be launching now the Mind Master Book Club on Fable, and this is really an opportunity, for those of us who read the book and for those people who haven't read it. But Rishi, how would you like, can you tell us a little bit about the some of the exclusive content and how people will be able to read the book alongside you?
I would emphasize a couple of chapters because I think when I was writing the book, I felt that those are the moments where they would most likely be surprised. The book literally starts there. I'm going to the fifth game of the World Championship match in 2008. And literally, I have a brain freeze. I can't remember a thing. And suddenly it hit me that so we spend basically the entire day and a half before this game going over every single line to make sure it's not memorization, it's familiarization. I want to know enough that when I'm over there, I will not lose my way around. It's not like I have to memorize every landmark in the city, but I need to have enough that I can orient myself and find what I need to find. So that's the what you try to take. Anyway, before this thing, I had checked all the other lines very thoroughly, but suddenly it hit me, my God, I just forgotten one line. So that consistently surprises people. So I like to share that. But mainly, what I hope they take away from this book is that, uh, the question I'm always asked, and it's exactly this: it's uh, how many moves ahead can you see? Uh, how do you react at the board? Can I do something? Can I play something which will surprise you, and you won't know how to react? And these kinds of questions. I want to tell them, well, chess is very, very unpredictable. And so most of the time, we didn't know till the last minute whether we were going to win or lose. We had to accept the risk. We thought we were doing okay, but we could easily have been wrong. And in the end, it worked out or it didn't. And sometimes it's a miracle that I survived and I went home and collapsed and things like that. So, very much that it's a sport like any other, and the unpredictability is what reigns. Unpredictability, forgetting stuff. These are the things that really make a difference. Because if you take two chess players of similar technical ability, it's not, even if their skill sets are slightly different, the game will not be decided on by technical means. It will be decided by mental strength and who makes the last mistake, simply put. And so hopefully those are the bits of the book that I will try to share a lot.
It's a wonderful book, Vishy. When I picked up the book, I thought it would read more like a straight through biography, right, about your life in chess. And there are obviously elements of that, right? There are elements of that about how you picked up your love for the game, but it is so much more than that, right? And it's written in a very different way, which highlights the various aspects of the game and the learnings that you took from it, and you got the some of the moves that you made and what you learned what the various aspects, like you said, whether it's resilience or it's empathy or understanding, even the breathing patterns of your competitors. I thought it was
Absolutely.
fascinating. And Padma, I think this book club is such a wonderful concept. What are some of the immersive aspects of the book club that will really appeal to everybody who's listening to us today?
Yeah, I think the concept of the Fable book club is, like I said, we'll be able to see Vishy's comments throughout the book. I think we'll be able to hear his voice in a unique way beyond the book. Like when I read the book, I thought, like I said, I'm mostly a fiction reader. I'm not a great chess player. I was reading it mainly because I wanted to learn about a champion who's like a groundbreaking champion, first of his kind. I think that was more my interest. So it's like the human behind the game, sort of. And I got a lot out of that. And what we will see in Fable is as people are reading, they'll be able to highlight things that they like. Other people reading with you will be able to see those highlights. We'll see Vishy's highlights, what he's talking about, what he's commenting on. You can ask him questions, he'll respond. You can ask each other questions. You can make private notes as you go along. Maybe you don't want like everyone in the club to see, but like I often take private notes. You can tap things, you can annotate. As you're reading the book, you'll be able to react inside a book. And if I'm coming along, I'll say, "Oh, Mohit said like he was surprised by this. Why didn't it?" It's like a fun emoji way of doing it. And then you can also then click on, like if you highlight something, Mohit, I can click on your highlight. I can go into the discussion and comment on that, and other people can jump into it. It's very, very interactive and very modern, I would say. So it sort of feels like, Slack meets Instagram meets a book club. So it's very, very fun, and I think very lightweight in the way how you can interact. We try to build it as human as possible, like how we are talking, right? It's not like super programmed. It's sort of something somebody said triggers an idea in your head, and you react to that. And as you're reading, as things are triggered in your brain, share that with others. I think that's how we built the product.
Is as I read through the book and I looked at the various saw the games that you'd highlighted and saw the moves you'd made. Is the knight your favorite piece? It certainly seemed that in a lot of the games that you highlighted, involved a very deft use of the knight.
More than one chess player has noticed that there's something between me and knights. In fact, generally, there's a slight preference for bishops over knights, but I lean very much in the other direction, and people have noticed that. The other thing about the book is actually that because I wrote it literally so that we could release the book on my 50th birthday, I'm able to share a lot more. There's a lot of things which if I'd written the book 15 years before, I would not have wanted to talk frankly, because in a sense, you're giving an insight into yourself to others. But by the time you're 50, you're more relaxed about these things, and you just think, well, that's me, and if it's weak, it's weak, but I'll share it, and that's fine. So you don't feel the need to hide anything. And I honestly felt if my opponents haven't figured this stuff out by now, they're never going to do it, so it doesn't matter.
No, I think it's a wonderful book, and I think the book club gives us a unique new way to enjoy it. Right? It's almost like you enjoy it with so many other people with so many different flavors, different nuances that you may miss if you read it by yourself. So it's almost like three-dimensional chess. So with that, Padma or Anand, any sort of final thoughts?
I think I read the book, but I'm really looking forward to reading it again with a community of people. I'm really super interested in how other people may see what they're reading, how they may interpret it. I think that's the power of a book like this. I went into it, like I said, I don't read business books, I don't read chess books. I really wanted to read because of the author and, the person behind the book. And I got so much out of it. And I'm really looking forward to it, reading with a community and learning with others. I think that's what I'm excited about the book club on Fable.
Lots of useful life lessons there in the book. So thank you again. Thank you, Padma, and thank you, Anand. It was wonderful discussion, and look forward to continuing it on the Fable Book Club.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you, Mohit.